Welcome back to the channel, Crypto Trend Trader, with a quick update on Bitcoin. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. Alright, so here we got the daily here in the left-hand corner. I'm on the Bitstamp chart, and as you can see, our 8 period in red short-term moving average is getting ready to cross below, or has technically crossed below, the yellow 21, which is going to signal the beginning of a downtrend. The uptrend was signaled back here at the beginning of April when we crossed to the upside, and at the time price action was about 6,600, and now we are crossing to the downside. It's still possible that we get picked up like we did right here, where we get the move back to the upside and we can stop the cross, because this isn't like closed, or even if it did close and then we still got the move back up, it's always a possibility. We came down exactly to what I was calling out here, which is the confluence between the 50 and the 55, simple and exponential, and it's right above the parabolic SAR. So basically at this point in time, any further move to the downside is going to take out the parabolic SAR, which is going to line up also with the cross of the moving averages. And then as you can see on the TJD TDMACD, we're below the slope line. The slope line is red and the histogram is red, signaling continuation to the downside. We got the daily sell signal back here at 9,900 area, with the cross from the blue and purple to the downside. So at this point in time, we are at support. So it is possible this area right here holds. I took a scalp off of the orange trend line right here that we have, but I don't know if that's going to hold. The idea behind that being essentially that was our close on 4 hour multiple times, and had held. So there's potential that would basically hold up, and that also we could find the blue line back as support. So essentially we would at least get like a move back up from this point, essentially bringing us back as high as like, I don't know, like the 9,400, 9,500 range. But we already basically tested the breakdown of the yellow slope line. So at this point in time, this is just going to start looking like a channel right here. If we do find support right here and, potentially move back up towards like the top of the channel, we could come all the way back up here and put in a new high. Like, I'm not just convinced all of a sudden, that this trend is just over. You do get a lot of fake outs, and, even if this is like the flip of the trend and we're going to start trending to the downside, I would still expect, bounces like the whole way, like stairway. But if we do start closing outside of this and essentially get a close down here below like the 8,500 range, that's when I'm really going to start worrying about the actual trend being in jeopardy. But if we actually zoom out on this to a longer time frame and look at this same chart, I mean, we're technically still outside of that red slope line, which if you go out to like the weekly or monthly, it's going to line up like a little more accurately with price action. But you'll see, essentially until we get to a longer time frame, it's not uncommon for us to operate outside of that area. So it could potentially look like a break of this, and then all of a sudden we get like the capitulation, like dump style candle like this. And that's when we keep an eye out for like basically, like the volume coming in, and then essentially like the heavy move down here to one of these like substantial zones. And also, we came down originally, bounced off this area, came in, put in our high, which was essentially like that same previous high from before. But at this point in time, like validation would be like that 82.57 area. That would be the 236 of the move, from that little mini capitulation at 38 whatever, all the way up to the top here at like 10.5. So depending on what exchange you're looking at, Coinbase has been like a little more wicky lately because there's like less liquidity because of some of their decisions they've decided to make. And I expect that to further be the case. But if we blow right through that 236, we could essentially come down here to that 71.83, which is like really our big term target, because that's essentially like the resistance that we broke back up through. So we'd be coming back down and testing it. And then it's also like the green long-term parabolic trend line from like massive long-term trending parabola. So that's a very key area and lines up perfectly with the 382. So essentially that's something that we want to really keep an eye out in the future, because a lot of times when you have like that kind of confluence like that, it's something that's going to end up like playing out. So but if we did end up staying on this area right here and consolidating like long enough and moving back up, like I said, we could take out that high right here and continue operating inside of like this channel, inside of like our larger pattern. So that's what we're keeping an eye out for right now. But like I said, I took a scalp off of this orange line right here just because it's been working out so often on like the shorter time frame and essentially governing price action. But I expect the blue line right here at 91.96 to be acting as serious resistance. So even if we do like poke back above it, like I said, I'm really just looking at this as more of a scalp. If we start closing like a 4-hour or really like open and close outside of this range right here, or we break down through like this 8900 area, that's when I'll start like getting concerned for like the actual like trend. But overall, I'm still short in the market. Like I said, more of like a swing trade. I think this trend has essentially topped out right here. But like I said, I'm not fully convinced to just like give up on the trend at the moment. But essentially, to me, this whole like consolidation range all through here has basically just looked like distribution. So at some point in time in the near future, if we just like got a heavy capitulation move back down here to like that 7,000 range, that's where I would really be looking for like the reaction of the trend. Otherwise, I don't think it's unrealistic to think we could consolidate in the range here from like 9,200 to like 10.4 and just keep moving around in this range, for even like another week or two. We don't just have to all of a sudden sell off. But at the same time, we've been consolidating this range for quite a while. So, whatever has been taking place, whether you want to call it distribution or accumulation, we could be getting towards the maturation of the pattern, and likely we'll see a move before long here. But again, as everyone gets on like the same side of a trade and becomes like overly bearish or overly bullish, is when you tend to see like the counter trend trade become like the big move. So we've had quite a bit of selling off, consolidation, selling off. So is it unrealistic to think we could just get one of these big boy candles like that? No, not at all. I mean, honestly, what I would really expect to happen right here is I would expect us to get like this guy. I mean, I don't want to get anybody like overly bullish, like excited or anything like that, but we've just been getting so many of these ridiculous like BART situations all through this. And essentially every time it's like an 88% move. Like we'll sell off right here and then we'll get, the move back up is like 88% of it. And then, we sell back off here and then we get the move back up. It's like same thing. Sell back off and then you look at what's the percent of this to this. It's like 80%, 88% of that, roughly. And then, you get like a candle like this, comes back down. You get from this move to this move, what is it? It's essentially like the same move, 88%. What's this compared to this? Is it realistic to think we would get the bounce back up here and retest? I mean, again, I'm not saying you should be trading off of this, but it's very realistic to think that we're going to keep getting these type of moves right here and essentially like stay in a range rather than all of a sudden just get this one-time break that's going to happen. I mean, we will get the break of the range eventually, but there's no reason to think that that's what's about to happen. It's more realistic to me to think that, this is going to continue acting as, support. This is going to continue acting as support. This blue is going to continue acting as support. And so what that tells me, as everyone else in the market gets extremely bearish and the downward move, has already happened, we have our long-term short in from up here, but we can now take that move back to the upside into like this 9,700 range, somewhere around here, and then see what's going on with price action from that. Because we basically haven't really tested like this breakdown yet. And the way these markets are acting, they love to just drop down and come back up. Now, the alternative to this, and the reason that I am short, is I think that the, traditional stock markets have topped out. And, as everything keeps going on with the CV, and like cases are spiking and reopenings aren't going so great and everything, and we reopen, but, business isn't there, or the initial demand, that everybody sees starts to fade, it's more realistic to think that the euphoria will wear off. And then there's also like a lot of other reasons why, why essentially like we may have already topped out on like this dead cat bounce basically. So, if I think at this point in time, like, these markets are all directly correlated, like all of them. So, and just some are more heavily correlated, but essentially if the stock market just breaks through, its support right here, we basically did the exact same thing. We came down to that parabolic trend line. If we just break down through these support areas right now and just like start capitulating down to like the 382 or something like that, then of course, very realistically, I think crypto and Bitcoin is going to do the same thing. But again, you're getting that hard signal. Everybody that took that hard signal right here, basically got took out in this move back up. And then is it more realistic to think we can move all the way back up here and fill that gap at like 318? I'm on the S&P. I mean, I just, same type of thing where I just don't think we're necessarily ready to just like start dumping down here and that's it and it's the end of the trend. I think it's more realistic that we're going to do something like this, where we basically just bounce around and just essentially like range in this area. And then finally, when the time is right, closer to like, I don't know. To tell you the truth, it's tough to tell too, because we're coming up on like the end of the quarter now too, end of the half. I mean, we're going to see like a lot of money shifting around, rebalancing of portfolios. So, I mean, I would hate to even call direction at this point in time. I'd rather just get on the train of volatility. And I think that's why taking like scalps off of key areas, regardless of direction, is probably the better move, in my opinion. So, and the same thing goes for, all these markets. Essentially, we were talking about the Dow. We got the break straight up here to the top of the range, to our target, and then called the break straight back down to our range, to our target. Got the move back to the center now. And then here we are, decision point. Are we going to come all the way back up, essentially fill that gap at 26,861, or are we going to move back down and, test support at 24,100 or as low as 2,300? It does look like the trend is obviously topping out. That's why I called it up here. But, did the move already happen? Yeah, quite possibly. Do we get like more of a consolidation in this range now before we get another big move like that? But again, at any point in time, we could just get like big China trade war news or, horrible spread of the big V or whatever it is. And, everybody just freaks and starts dumping. So at this point in time, like I said, the easy trades have already been made. I think the best thing to do is sit back and, if you're not going to take advantage of the volatility, wait and see what the trend identifies itself as. Like, do we officially top out and start trending to the downside, or do we consolidate and then break the range and move to the upside? It should be very obvious. So that's what we're looking out for at this point in time. I'm going to be staying in my positions all over the place right now. But we'll see how this all works out. I don't want to get too ambitious on this trade right here or anything like that either, because I am biased to the downside on like the longer like swing essentially. But once again, we've been getting like these crazy BART patterns left and right, and I don't think it's unrealistic that like we wake up in the morning and price is already back up here at like 9,600. Even if it's just like wicks back up, retest a breakdown one more time, takes out all the late shorters, and then immediately we just sell right back down. So, but there you have it, guys. Crypto trend trader. Oh, and I just want to let you know too. I do appreciate everybody. I know, I have like a loyal crew of people that's always out here for me. I've been using my time a little differently lately, working on the courses and everything, getting ready to debut that sometime in the near future. That is still going to be free for the community. Anybody that's involved in the channel, that's going to be offered to for free when it's released. So that'll be real cool. And it's going to be good quality and everything like that. And I'm working on quite a bit of other stuff as well, fine tuning the indicators and whatnot. But guys, if you really would take the time to give me a like, if you're not already subscribed, and more importantly, if you would give me a comment and let me know what part of the world you're in, because I'm curious where my audience is listening from, if they're primarily like United States or all over the place. So, well, there you have it, guys. Crypto Trend Trader, and I'm out of here.